Howdy everyone, and welcome back to The More You Grow. I have a dilemma on my hands. I ordered over 50 sweet potato slips and they came in the mail this week. The problem is I'm not ready to plant 50 sweet potato slips like I thought I would be right now. We've got bad weather coming up next week to where I don't want the rain to wash these out, and it's going to make my farm a big muddy mess where I won't be able to get into there. And I've also got some family issues with some of my family being sick, to where I'm more focused on checking on them, making sure that everything's okay there rather than getting these guys planted. Sweet potatoes come bare rooted. They come as bare slips. Whereas you can see here, we've got to get them planted fairly soon. It's not something that I can just sit on for a long period of time. So I've talked with a few of my fellow homesteaders and kind of used some of the solutions I had in mind. And I'm going to show you my solution to keeping these sweet potato slips in good condition till we can get them out into the garden. So let's go check it out. Alright, so you've got your sweet potato slips in the mail, and for whatever reason, you're not ready. Because life happens, guys. A lot of times you pre-order these slips like this, you choose a week for them to ship, and then they just come on that week. And sometimes life happens. In my case, I've got two different things going on. The weather is going to be really nasty for about a week, and I was hoping to put them out today before the rains all hit, but life happened to me. My grandma's in the hospital right now. I'm going to go visit her today instead of planting these because she means more to me than any sweet potato slip ever will. But I still want them to be okay. There are solutions for extending the life of your sweet potato slips until you're ready. I'm going to talk about those today. The first thing you need to do is take them out of the box. First thing, get them out of this box, because they're just wrapped up with some kind of moist paper around the bottom just to keep them okay until they get to you. But sometimes they're going to be looking pretty sad by the time they get to you. In my case, they were pretty wilted. The first thing you want to do is take your sweet potato slips and put them in a nice glass of clean water. That water is going to help them get hydrated. It's really going to get these leaves perked back up, and it's going to get them rejuvenated. But this isn't a long-term solution. If you're going to plant them in the next few days after you get them, putting them in a glass of water will be just fine. I would say 4 to 5 days maybe at tops. You can keep them in this water and they'll be okay. But the problem is, if you leave them in here too long, the roots will start to rot. There's not enough oxygen here. The root hairs can't get any oxygen, so the root hairs will eventually die back, and they will eventually not be able to take up any water, because that's where all the water comes in through, is the little tiny root hairs on the edges of the roots. So if those die, these will start to wilt, and you'll be like, they're sitting in water, how are they wilting? How could they need water? Well, it's because they can't take in water. They don't have any root hairs. So we need to go to our alternate solutions. So one thing you could do is you could wrap them in paper towels, but that again is going to be a short-term solution. So since I don't know how long this is going to take for everything, I'm going to go for the safe option. So between the weather coming up and my grandma being in the hospital, I'm going to need something that's going to be a midterm solution. This isn't something I want to do for too long, but it's going to work a lot better than keeping these sweet potato slips in water for a long period of time. What I have is just a pot of pre-moistened potting soil. Why I say pre-moistened is because you want to be sure that you have lots of moisture in your potting soil. And sometimes what happens is you'll wet this stuff down on top, and down deep in the pot it'll still be dry because it is kind of hydrophobic sometimes when you get packaged potting soil. So I blast this thing with the water hose down in there, make sure it's all moist, all from the top to the bottom, so that way that these roots are going to have plenty of water. And the reason why this potting soil is going to be a more long-term solution than the cup of water is because this is going to allow these roots to breathe. It's going to have pore space in between the potting soil, and it's going to allow those root hairs to form and to be able to take up water. If we keep this moist, it's going to help keep these hydrated. It's going to keep them looking nice, and as long as we don't keep them in here too long, they will just hang out and be happy. If we leave them in here too long, they'll start to root into the pot and root in with each other, and it'll be hard to get them apart at that point. So this is one thing that will help to extend the life of your sweet potato slips until you can plant them, but you don't want to wait around too long and think this is going to hold up for very long, because you'll end up having a root bound mess if you leave it in there too long. So what I'm going to do is I've got 2 of these pots. Let me get the other one real quick. Got 2 of these pots, and the reason why I have 2 is because I want to make sure that all these roots have a good contact with the soil. I want to be sure we got good surface contact. So I'm going to divide them in half. And just to give you a look here, what we're looking at, you can see these slips are starting to root out. The water will help them root. So once you get these out of the box and put them into a glass of water, it will encourage those roots to form. But if you leave it in there too long, it will become anaerobic and start to rot your roots. So what we're going to do here is we're going to divide the big bundle in half, and then we're going to divide it once more. And see, these are already starting to root into each other, so it's a good thing that we're going to kind of separate them now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of form a hole as deep as I can down in here, so that way we get all these roots covered. And we're just going to set them down in there like so. Gotta keep digging. Gotta keep digging. If you're able to plant these right off the bat when you get them, or if you're able to plant them within a few days, I encourage you just to keep them in a cup of water, because there's no need to use up potting soil and to potentially get these things rooted out to where they tangle up with each other if you're going to be able to plant it in just a few days. So that's one thing I'm going to have to risk when I do this, is having to separate all these sweet potatoes out and to try to get it all cleaned off when I decide I want to go plant them. So we'll take these here, and see, I'm already starting to get some of these rotting because I've had them in the water for about 5 days. And so it's getting to where I have to get these planted or they'll start to rot even worse. So I'm going to take these and try to take off any of the rotten bits, any of them that are starting to mildew, and we're just going to put the other half, or the other quarter, down in this pot. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got my slips divided into thirds. And the reason why I've done that instead of sticking them all together into one pot is because I want to give these slips as much soil contact as I possibly can. That's going to help them get more moisture and to maybe decrease them tangling up as bad, we hope. We'll just see how that works. So one big benefit of doing this method is acclimating our sweet potato slips to the outside conditions. Here in Texas, it's very hot, we have intense sunlight, and if I just leave these on my counter for a week, they're not going to be acclimated to those outside conditions, and they could struggle for a little bit or go into shock when I plant them. So hopefully by doing this, I can gradually get them used to the heat outside. I'm going to put them under the shade of my porch at first just to get them kind of used to the outside temperatures. And one big thing about acclimating your slips is not just the heat, it's the sunlight. So plants can get sunburns just like people can. And once they're used to being in shady conditions, they don't develop the cells they need to protect them from that UV radiation. So if you take your house plants outside for even just a little bit, sometimes you can sunburn those leaves really bad. So what I'm going to do is gradually increase the sunlight until I've got these into full sun, so that way they can handle being planted right out there at the farm, because it is full sunlight, full heat. There's no protection for these guys, so we want to get them acclimated. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put them on my front porch where they've got mostly shade and gradually drag them out further and further, so that way they get exposed to more and more sunlight. I'm going to go ahead and plant these up just like I've done here and move them out there. So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you have any more questions for me about what I've done here today, or how to grow sweet potatoes, or where to order sweet potato slips, leave it down in the comment and I'll be sure to help you out with that. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel, go check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and hit that bell icon for notifications. Until next time, I hope you'll join me right here on The More You Grow.